We're going to start this meeting of the Jericho Selectboard at 6:33. And as usual, we start with public to be heard. Is there any, I'm going to start with a letter from the Jericho Center Preservation Association from Bob Turner, president, that had to do with the quality of life in the center, basically the speed of traffic through the center and parking from the general store. Parking from the general store. We've looked at other studies before and people have not been happy with those either. That's a longer term, but we can paint and we can do the signs. The fact is, I mean, this is a good time to talk about when the radar signs are coming in because we've ordered them a long time.
Oh, we have them, they just haven't been installed.
Oh, good. That'll make people happy.
Yeah,
And then as I understand that striping takes 3 dry days to do it.
yes, it does.
We'll have to, but we can, you know, we also have the painting to do that. So I mean, so at least we can do those kinds of things. The other stuff that is mentioned is long term, but the rest of the letter should go in the record as a public to be heard. Right. Are there other people who have something that's public to be heard that is for something that's not on the agenda?
I know we have a representative from,
Small Business Administration.
I'm sorry, SBA, the Small
SBA.
Business Administration.
Okay,
Come on up to the microphone to give you a seat.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Accurso. I'm a public affairs specialist. With this,
I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My name is Jim Accurso. I'm a public affairs specialist with the Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Resiliency and Recovery. We are here in Vermont following the recent flood event. And we are providing our long-term low-interest loans to homeowners, renters, nonprofits, and businesses to help them recover from the losses that they may have had because of the flooding. And I know primarily here in Jericho, you didn't have a lot of physical damage, but your businesses here could be eligible for the economic injury disaster loans that we offer. The deadline for those to apply is not until April 15th of next year. So if any of your businesses here are located here and that are depicted in the fact sheet here, the many counties where that are the declared counties as well as the contiguous counties is how we work it. And they look back and they see that they had a loss tied to the flooding, they could apply for the economic injury loans that we offer. We have about 6 centers here that we're opening that are open right now. We open them in accord with FEMA. So FEMA has their disaster recovery centers where we are working, and then we have our 3 business recovery centers where we encourage folks to come in and talk to us to see, in fact, if they are eligible for the loans that we offer. We would appreciate if anybody could spread the word because a lot of folks don't know that the Small Business Administration does help homeowners and renters. So we can help homeowners to up to $200,000 of physical damage to their homes, and that's property, real estate, including vehicles. And then the renter of that home, that residence could get up to $40,000 for contents. So we're here. We encourage folks to, again, come into one of the centers. They could also apply online. They could also call the R800 number and get a paper application mailed to them. I know we're having issues with the mail these days, so that may not be a good option. But at the very least, to go online to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov and fill out an application. There is no fee to apply for the loan. There is no obligation to take the loan if it's awarded. It's not through a bank, it's through us and through the U.S. Treasury. And also, if they are awarded the loan, and once they apply, they'll work with a loan officer about the terms of the loan. But if they are awarded the loan, the first year is deferred, interest-free. So we do want to help folks get back up on their feet here in Vermont. We know it was a terrible situation that you've been through. The extended the rain events that just keep coming. So we're here to help, and would appreciate getting the word out. I know John and I have been working with Jessica, and we've got some information up on the board here. And we're working with communities around the area. Chambers of Commerce, cities and the like, talking to the media, getting the word out the best we can.
I think that's important that you talk about the first year with no interest. deferred, and then when it is low interest, I think a lot of people are worried that, you know, because of the loan, you know, it's going to really hurt because of higher interest rates right now, and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so it's 4% and less. That's very good. Yeah, it's 4% for businesses, 2.5% for homeowners, and 2.375 for nonprofits. And that's the interest rate that we're offering for these.
So I haven't had a lot of time to discuss this, but I think we could certainly publish information on our website,
Okay,
and we can draw people's attention to that using our front porch forum, which is a local kind of neighborhood email.
and I know some other communities are
Platform.
using it, the front porch one. I appreciate that. So what I'll do, John, is I'll send you some more information, because I know my first email bounced back.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that happened,
Yeah,
but I'll
yeah.
make sure that my
But yeah, we would appreciate it. We've got some
Go back and
some
look.
flyers that provide all that information, and you know, again, you know, given today, the option to go online is there, but we also offer the option to come into one of the centers. Right now, the centers are open 7 days a week. So the FEMA centers and our centers, we have trained and experienced the customer service reps there. 7 days a week, you know, that's early on, and then as we go forward, you know, we may shorten those days, but you know, we are here to help and want to help folks the best we can.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
work too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got work cut out for you, huh?
It's
We have another letter to put into the record, probably being heard, but it's very good for Adam and the road crew. It's from Philip and Nielsen on the May River, and he giving compliments to the road crew repairing the culvert near the home on the May River.
Great.
The work they did a great job. But he also said, interestingly enough, the inadvertent benefit of the repair is the unpaved portion of the road has caused traffic to slow down. Maybe we can put a speed bumper, speed table there instead.
Oh, boy.
We just don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
Get it torn up.
Yeah.
I think that would be worth at least exploring it. When I saw this email, not belabor this point, because I think we should probably agenda item it separately, but
Eventually, yeah.
but there are very few places in town where a speed bump may actually make sense, and it would be when you're entering what's in Massachusetts called thickly settled. You know, at the end of Lee River Road, as you're coming into the village, you want people to slow down. Similarly, in the center, to Bob Shermer's point, you could imagine tables like ones with teeth, like in the old North End in Burlington, where if you hit them the wrong way, you're losing your undercarriage. But that would stop people coming into downtown Jericho Center. I mean, it doesn't make sense to stick it on any old road because you want to slow people down, but when they're coming into an area,
Yeah.
it might be worth exploring at some point. I do feel badly for Diane, who lives right near where the culvert is. And you know, every time there's an empty trailer, it's like. And maybe when I saw this thing from Phil, maybe called to mind. If you live on Lee River, you realize the incredible heavy loads that go on that road, heavier than Skunk Hollow. Because you've got all this military equipment going down. So I think it would be worth asking Tyler if we want to pursue this, how we'd approach this, where you'd have a lump that you would have to carry a lot of truck traffic. You know, and how's that work for Adam in the summer, in the winter, when we're building a speed table or whatever? But I do think it could be a really effective place to have a bump, because you're coming into the village, you're coming into something thickly settled where you're more likely to see kids or a lawnmower or something right on the edge of the road. So anyway.
Well, I won't put Adam on the spot. He is, I believe he's in attendance to listen in on and potentially comment on the study for the new town garage. So he's out there listening.
You know, this, don't take a position until you have to.
That's right. But yeah, because I mean, they do, when we did Skunk Hollow, they did say that speed tables are most effective when they're done in trees. But we only did 3 in Skunk Hollow rather than 9 because the road clutter, but every single one had to have signs. And people were real unhappy about that much.
Anyway,
visual noise, but
they'll
yeah.
they want some response to, or Bob will.
Yeah, but I think, the fact that we can put in the record that we have the radar signs that just need to be installed and we're waiting for dry days. And that makes a big difference right there.
Right.
And then, I guess eventually the speed table, the raised pedestrian walkway in the center has to be updated and get it moved down. Anyway, at least we can paint it. Any other public to be heard?
Nathan?
Come up and speak come up and speak.
We're just here to kind of show our interest in the Gravel Drive saga. And we're looking forward to mediation or any other conversation we can have. We're not proposing anything, or our position isn't changing in any way. But we did hear things about cost sharing deals and stuff, but nothing was ever presented to us. So we're just trying to still keep an open and somewhat collaborative, tone without changing our position whatsoever.
I'm sorry, can you state your name for the,
Oh, Lathan Gravel, sorry.
we know, but they don't.
That's true.
So, and we're also curious if you guys had anything you wanted to say, about moving forward with this process.
Other than looking forward to something,
Some sort of-
mediation or something, I like the notion that perhaps this could still be collaborative. I'd like to think that. So thank you for using that word in your comments.
Yes, we want to be collaborative,
Yeah, well,
but, it has to be a two-way street.
there's history and there's a lot of ideas. We know the area. We know things. We can be collaborative, but we found thus far through the process that tone hasn't really existed. And even when we had the opportunity to meet on the roadway and look at things, it was like, don't say anything. It's like, oh, I thought this was going to be a collaborative exercise, but
Well, you can't when you're doing a site visit, things like that.
yeah.
Because it could impact your legal liability.
Yeah, and that's a whole annoying thing, but I understand why it exists. But so one question was out about, dates for the mediation being September 21st or somewhere around there. We'll have our attorney verify that, but that is something, a timeline we're interested in. But if there was some other, conversation we had before that, where that was postponed for chance, a little bit, not long, we want resolution soon. So that's our intent. But we're open-minded, that's all.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, in full disclosure, information wise, so I just got back to town. In looking ahead to the proposed mediation on the 22nd. I've only today been able to have conversation with Claudine and Chris. And so part of my goal this evening will be to update the select board, talk about options and opportunities, looking ahead to that mediation.
In executive
In
session.
executive session,
And
yes,
that's the September date.
correct.
Yeah, that's all I personally have to say, but
Well,
No.
thank you for your input.
okay.
Appreciate that as well.
Thanks, Lee.
If there are any other comments from the public, anybody online?
Not seeing any hands raised.
All right, well, then we're going to move to what Ann would like to hear about. Review and consider approval of feasibility study for the Jericho Highway Department, new garage.
Matt, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So we're gonna dive in. Wayne, I have the slides that
Yeah, that might be. a good
you had
contact.
provided. Do you want me to project
Yes.
those?
I think that's very
Okay.
good, because people need to see that.
Right,
Great. So just to give context, we're gonna be hearing shortly from Matt Young, Matt Young is the principal consultant for Ascent Incorporated. Ascent provides feasibility studies and surveys for municipalities in need of new municipal buildings, in this case, a town garage. Matt will also be talking about process for what his proposal encompasses, what the scope of the feasibility work would be, and we'll let Matt take it from there.
Okay.
Hang on one sec, Matt. Let me wait, where am I here? Screen share.
Now, Matt, can you walk through all this, or do you want me to do the first number of slides and then turn it over to you when we get to the consultant part?
That's fine. Go ahead, start.
All right, so, I want to give credit where credit's due. Right before this meeting, I stopped in the office to say hello to Paula and said, I'm thinking of taking a couple of pictures of the highway department just for context, because we're having a consultant come in. And she pulled from her computer most of this slideshow. She said, well, I just have this little thing I've been working on the side. And she was anticipating what we might need. So I just want to tip my hat to her for doing some of this. So the first slide, I just want to point out to viewers, and ultimately, I hope this slide presentation may be put on the website as this project moves forward. You'll see kind of two parts to a building. On the left side, those 5 days, I don't know if Martha Prince is listening or something, but I think that's the 1960s building. And then on the, Adam may know too. And then on the right-hand side is the slightly newer with more uniformly large bays. But just to let you know, residents of Jericho, that these are really two buildings smushed together. Next. Okay, next. And then here's just a couple shots of it. I think this thing on the left may be the edge of the salt shed or something. On the right, this actually hangs off the 1960s building, if you will. That picture on the right, you see there's some storage into that trailer and that connecting room. Next. This is just a quick rundown. Now, what precipitated the most recent efforts about the building had to do with heating. We have an existing furnace. They cannot be repaired. And we have the old clunker, or some version of the old clunker from the 60s, which actually got us through this season poorly. But you'll see right there, that's the heating system is, we've got to deal with that ASAP. Next. There's some more shots of the heating, the connection outside, and then the air handling box, I think that is on the bottom with the sludgy thing in the on the floor. And then I think that's probably a burner on the left-hand side hanging off of that tin cabinet. But anyway, you can see it's not the state of the art. Next. A couple of roofing issues. Just wanted to point out for some of these pictures, you can see that at least the portion on the right-hand side's got to be replaced. And you can see that whatever that flashing thing is on the left, it's got to be a nightmare, that utility pole poking through the roof. So anyway, there's some issues with the roofing. Next. And then the walls, because they're so old and in poor repair, it's allowing a lot of the heat to escape, and then allows cold air and small animals to get in. We did do a repair on the I-beams that support the walls 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, 8 years anyway, I think.
So next. So on the right here, you see that one of those I-beams, I don't know if that's what we fixed, but that's what one of the pictures we got. And then another picture of the wall looks like that's a nightmare back there. Next. The bathroom, the toilet room, which looks like they would waterboard people in it, is 38.5 inches wide. So it's not really ADA compliant. Next. And then on the left, you see the rest of the bathroom, and I just want to point out.
I can't imagine she cleans that.
This is the eye wash station. When our department gets into a pickle, there's another
Oh my God.
picture on the slide where you can see the whole thing. But if you get some kind of junk in your eye, look at, you're sticking your head over this filthy sink
It's going, yeah.
and you got this eye wash station. It's just completely not
Yeah, in
acceptable.
the chem labs, our eye wash stations are always separate.
And then down on the right, that's the toilet room again.
Hey, Wayne,
So, yes,
so we actually cannot use the eye wash stations because the water is so contaminated. We have to use the eye solution that we order from a company. That station is out of service because the water is too contaminated.
It looks bad. I mean,
Okay,
it really
thank you.
looks bad. I can't believe that, you could use it.
okay, so next
That's good to
slide.
know.
This is the pit. Which is a safety concern. My niece just bought a house in Bristol that's got a pit, and we were just doing a little jig at the house that we could do some work on the cars there, but I guess it's not really okay to have one in the town highway, where you can get under and do all the undercarriage stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I guess we're gonna have to close that up, and there may be OSHA compliance issues with that pit. Next.
I see. So they go down rather than flip trucks up.
Right. Yeah. Some of the storage is outside. Paula suggested it might be $400,000 worth of stuff you see here, sitting in the yard. Next. Got more storage. There's the plows on the left. They have to be stored outside, and there's some tires that are stored outside. Next. And this, the picture got a little scrunched, but the aspect is wrong. It should be a rectangle rather than a square. But anyway, the point of this picture is this massively beautiful and very expensive state-of-the-art grader can barely fit in the building. So much of the time, as I understand it, it's outside and it's got hoses and stuff that are just getting fatigued in the sun. Anyway, so the storage is not adequate for the size and number of equipment that we have. Next. And now we go to Mr. Young, and this is where the idea for the assessment comes in.
You there, Matt?
Yep, I am. All right. Want me to talk?
Sure, jump right in.
Take it away.
Okay, so thanks for the opportunity. I do really appreciate it. And there's obviously no doubt your town is in a very bad need of a new facility. One of the things that I had mentioned when I met with you guys was that, your most expensive asset should be also your employees. You've got a lot of hardware out there, and that's a lot of assets that need to be protected. But then, having a correct facility that your employees can use and have, and that's OSHA compliant, that's, building inspection compliant is really important, especially for retaining employees and hiring new employees. So this is really just not about building a building. It goes really broader than that. And I think that when you look at facilities like St. Albans and town of Georgia, that whole concept was part of why they did what they did, because their facilities were really bad shape too. And now they have a really nice state-of-the-art facility. The proposal that I had proposed is kind of like a hybrid approach. One is there's kind of like two parts to this. First part is to do a feasibility study that really documents your existing conditions of what you have out there. And then, of course, everybody always asks, well, then how much does it cost? What does it cost to build a new facility? And that really can't happen until the minds are sitting down, and I talk to Adam, and talk to any members that are involved in the garage design, to start talking about programming, and you also want to make sure that what you build, you want to build not for what you need today, but what you're going to need for the next 10, 15 years, and then have room for expansion so that you're not, painting yourself in the corner down the road. So first part of this proposal, like I said, item one is I would review the existing conditions, document it. And then the second part and item two would be to look at the possible siting of the building itself. Obviously, you know, unless you guys have other properties to consider, I'm assuming that the current site that you have is what you want to use. So we want to be able to analyze what's the best way to fit a new building. And then at the same time, keep business going at the same time. So that needs to be planned ahead. With that, I would prepare a conceptual, design plan. I'm not an architect, but I can draw and give you dimensions. I've done enough of these garages that I think I told Adam is that, you know what, I know pretty much 80% what you're going to need, the size of room, size of bays. I just really need, any pertinent things that you as a town may need that's different than other towns. So that needs to be known. And then after that floor plan is kind of figured out, then I'll start developing cost estimate. And the cost estimate will be pretty detailed. I don't, square foot anything. I do actually take also of how many cubic yards of concrete, how much rebar, tons of steel, and things like that. So it's a pretty detailed estimate. And I would also itemize what your permitting cost is anticipated to be, what your design services, would anticipate, to be. And then that would be all bundled together in a report, and I'll submit 6 bound hard copies to you guys. If you need more, let me know. And then 1 digital copy that's in the PDF format that you can distribute also. Questions?
Could you tell me a little bit more about what you would do in evaluating the site?
I need to spend some time out there, because one of the issues that we had ran into with other municipalities is has to do with the wetlands. And we need to make sure that, and also fill areas. So we need to make sure that wherever the new building goes, it's not adding additional expenses and time because of the siting that was picked. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's a little worrisome to me. It's one thing to get to the point that, first you get to the point, let's fix the building. No, we can't do that. Let's replace the building. Okay, we can do that. Now we gotta maybe think about the site that it's on. I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah. it's
So-
like-
I'm really interested to hear.
Failures that it definitely won't run into there, but
The other thing we need, because it is in the Vermont Electric co-op area, that we should be considering solar panels on the garage. Right, to be, going for the future. As well.
What the site has going for it is there are no close abutters either, so that makes it a whole lot easier in a way too. As you are aware, we're just starting to roll this, the urgency of these repairs out to voters. We've been talking it up for the last year or two. And now, we're starting to want to look at a much more serious detailed proposal. It must be said here, though, that right before COVID, in January, I think, of 2020, we had some very preliminary assessment done, I believe, of the garage. And then little did we know at town meeting, the day after town meeting, the whole bottom of the world was going to fall out. And it just kind of, I didn't even quite know what, we never dealt with it again.
No, we never did.
Frankly, we did.
No,
So,
no, because we did the study and then everything else changed.
So I'm looking forward to this helping to build momentum toward putting some kind of proposal before voters over the next couple of years.
So this is what you need to start with.
But Matt, I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Oh, I do have it. I gotta jump in. Sorry, Eric. I know you were just getting ready to say
That's different.
something. No, I'm all set.
I agree. I think it sounds like the right next step to me, and
Yep.
that way we have something to talk about instead of just this thing that's coming up. So I think it's good. I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the feasibility study by Ascent Consulting.
Before we, yeah, I think that's a great idea, but I'd like to have the other last two pictures of the building, the rusty, I mean, these are really good pictures to have about why you talk about animals in the building, things, sneak in.
Mhm.
Sure.
And the rest, the other.
And I think there's one more.
One more with all the rust, I mean, this building is dying by rust.
Maybe the next one might not be made out of metal.
So your report will be done prior to town meeting in March.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I anticipate once I get started, I could have it done within I'd say within 2 months. It really depends on what the availability of your folks are, because my initial step is spending some time on site and just looking at the existing conditions of what you have now. And then learning a lot from, Adam, what works, what doesn't work, what does he foresee he would like to see in the future, and then start really dialing in the siting, what works, what doesn't work, and get to know that. And then I'll have to have a separate meeting on what I call the new construction portion of, let's now get into a little bit more detail of the number of bays, the wash bays, offices, bathrooms, and all that stuff.
Now, when you've done these studies in the past, how often is it that you need to have additional on-site meetings with time spent on site? So, because right now it's looking at $9,600, but is it worthwhile to, do it up to not exceed 10,000 or something like that?
Well, I think I could do it. I have three on-site visits included. And, the first one would be to review the existing conditions. The second one would be to talk about programming of the facility. And the third one is to do a physical review with you guys of my report. I don't charge for any phone calls or Zoom meetings or anything like that, because that saves everyone time from travel, and coordination. And there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot of dialogue, with Adam going forward, whether it's him and I doing Zoom meetings or we do phone calls or emails. And anyone else, you guys would have to designate to me, who else is going to participate on your side in these discussions.
Okay.
Great. All right, we're gonna finish them.
So I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for the study.
All right, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the walkthrough, Matt.
Okay. Adam, I'll get hold of you and we'll start arranging what times will work.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right, thank you.
I think the one thing that Adam has told me in the past is for you guys just to kind of put in on the back burner is all that equipment that sits outside is, well over $400,000 plus the plows that sits outside all year round. So the wear and tear on those things, the weather that pertains to all of that, it's a huge issue. If any equipment is sitting outside, we have, like he said, there's, I don't know, backhoe or excavator or whatever that sits outside all year round. Those hoses freeze up and they break and you got to replace them. So having this start of this process of a new building and having those things inside, I think it's a huge thing for our equipment that we pay thousands of dollars for, that we're going to save some money on. I believe that, but just Adam bringing that to my attention, seeing all that equipment that sits outside and just rusting and something happening, it's so eye opener. It's just like I would have never thought of that. I would have, unless you showed me a picture. It's like, holy crap! All of our tax-paying dollars is sitting outside.
Right.
I
was thinking about that too. Given that, we are looking at a multi-year process, is it worthwhile to get one of those, it's like tarp buildings?
Oh, yeah, like a prefab
Yeah, I mean, 'cause people sometimes use it for garage.
outbuilding.
an outbuilding, it's a prefab outbuilding, it's heavy duty.
You
hard
could look
stuff.
into that.
Salt shed, and you would put too.
Yeah,
It's like a canvas, but it goes over aluminum something.
yeah, because our neighbor has a fancy project. But it made me think about that, to protect some of that expensive stuff in the interim, because that certainly can't cost humongous amount of money.
To get back to this study, I would hope that, I don't know if Matt signed off or not yet, but one of the things mentioned was a conceptual.
Yeah.
Was it a conceptual schedule or a schedule? Anyway, some kind of schedule, and I think we might have even received something about that already. Because once we receive his report, and then we at least talk about financing options with Brian and some other people, the municipal bank, whatever we're going to. Then we want to be able to get on the agenda for town meeting, hopefully not at 1:15 in the afternoon when everybody's left.
Right.
And it's only 300 people left in the front. But where we could get in, walk through this presentation, walk through some financing that we're thinking about. I don't want anyone to construe that there's going to be something in a special article on this matter in town meeting. I don't expect that that's gonna happen.
Maybe you should do it as an informational.
But
meeting.
yeah. Oh, yeah, separate meeting
Yeah,
itself.
because that way it's not good, because otherwise, it really would be a ban because it's other business.
Yeah, unless Dave could help us figure out some way to get in front of Article 2 or something, I don't know. But anyway, that's an opportunity to educate people.
Yeah.
And then people will have a sense, oh, this is still 2 years off or a year off or whatever it happens, whatever we think we can do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm excited that we're taking this step forward.
Yeah, and and the thing that you did mention on our study that we had initially done pre-COVID turned out to be already out of date because it's too small. So we have to do it, that's why we're doing another study, because the equipment's much larger. Next on the agenda is review and consider approval of the furnace replacement at Jericho Highway Department.
Great.
And you said something else came in, or?
Yeah, so we have, I'm gonna have to project that for you all to see. So if you look at your packet, you have the estimate from Vermont Mechanical.
Right.
And I'm assuming you've had a chance to review that. Paula, do you want to, since you were most closely aligned with the Vermont Mechanical folks, anything you want to highlight specifically?
No, so I just wanted to point out, like, we have the Vermont Mechanical quote, and now we have the Mountain Air quote. These two quotes aren't identical. The Vermont Mechanical is just replacing the furnace, the main furnace. And they will just put in a new furnace, a gas furnace in the place of that. When I met with Mountain Air a couple of days ago, they actually will they'll take out both old furnaces, the one that's completely dead and the old one, replace it with something and actually and I'm not sure, I'm looking at the quote that Mountain Air sent. It doesn't necessarily say Modine, but it's going to be putting in 4 kind of ceiling gas heaters in the sections. So you will see Mountain Air is more than Vermont Mechanical, but you also have to take in consideration Mountain Air is taking both furnaces out and replacing it with a new furnace and 4, sectionals that will be in the bays that will heat those bays all throughout the whole building. And they will take out the 2 oil tanks and replace it with 1 gas tank. Vermont Mechanical, they're going to replace the big furnace that is completely dead, replace it with a new one, and put a gas tank only in place for the heat for the new building. So it's definitely, they're not A to A, there is a little difference between the 2 of them.
Thanks, Paul.
That's totally different from the other company that had to remove the furnace and put in a new total heating and ventilation system.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did reach out to a few companies for, like, when we first started this process, I reached out to, companies to replace that whole system. And, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through that and replace it. So knowing that, it's all kind of falling into place. If we're going to replace the building at some sort, it makes sense not to spend $250,000 on a whole new unit. It makes sense to put $54,000 in, and the heat's going to be sufficient enough for them guys to be comfortable in this highway garage until, the future we get a new garage.
So what you're saying is Vermont Mechanical will just do the big building the new building, or,
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
and then the old furnace still has to do the old building?
Correct.
Yeah, and that old furnace does not do anything. It
No.
puts out a lot more heat outside than it does inside.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to run off
So-
oil.
So both
Yes.
furnaces are not, we have two furnaces now. One is extremely not functional, the other one is not very functional. Is that?
Correct.
We have
One
The main,
non-functional.
yeah, the
One
main
doesn't
one is
work.
dead.
And the other barely,
Has a
there's
cracked
a tiny one
box.
that barely works.
Gotcha, okay. I guess I didn't realize that about the second, although it was probably explained to me.
I think the other thing to highlight is the units that they're proposing to put in are modular. Those could be removed and mounted in a new building. Whereas if we just replace the existing furnace with another furnace, that furnace won't have any utility moving forward. So
Well, I was gonna,
there's a value add to that cost
You're talking about
scenario as
the-
well.
The new ceiling hung gas heaters. those
Right,
are the-
exactly.
Oh.
I don't believe they're specifically Modines, but they're something similar. They're propane driven. They're mounted in the corners. They have independent thermostats, so they can be run in unison or they can be run independently if need be. And all of the existing, like Paula said, they'll take out all the existing ductwork, all the existing, the two existing furnaces, the oil tanks.
well, that goes to my question, because that was the big question I had on Vermont Mechanical, because it said only provided services.
Yeah, I wondered about those.
Remove and reinstall the sheetrock wall to prevent removal of the furnace, remove and dispose of the furnace itself, removal of exterior fuel oil tank, patching exterior walls to accommodate oil vent removal and sidewall PVC venting, and setting up the new propane tank. That's
Right.
what and I was going to say, well, how much is that going to cost to add to the price that they quoted us?
Right, so Vermont Mechanical, they had asked us, can we remove the furnace? And I replied, yes, we can take those two panels off the wall and take out the furnace. But then he was asking, can we remove the oil tank? And I was like, okay, well, we can fill whatever, if we're going with them, we can fill the other oil tank, but I guess, yes, we can get rid of that. But he was like, you guys will need to do these steps. So,
We would need to do those steps concurrent with the installation of the new
for
furnace.
Vermont Mechanical, we will, but for
It's not
Vermont,
it's not like we could wait 5 years and when the other building is demolished, it would be part and parcel of that. He would say, in order to complete the installation of the new heating system, we would need to remove those things now.
yes, whereas from Mountaineer will do it all themselves. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna ask for our highway guys' assistance in getting out that old furnace because it is huge and the only way they got it in there was a bucket loader by chains. And I'm sure Adam doesn't mind helping them out for that, but everything else they will do.
So back to Vermont Mechanical, we would then have to find a contractor to do this other removal work. and to coordinate that schedule with Vermont Mechanical as they install the new heating system.
Correct. We would
And all
have
the-
to
that's
work with
51
whoever
days.
does the oil and have them drain the oil tank, remove the oil tank, and work coincide with Vermont Mechanical to do all of that.
Yeah, because my big question on that was how much and who, because the road crew is already visited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, you know, can't ask the road crew to do that. They've got their own group. Okay, well, that certainly changes the dynamics.
Can I ask Adam if you had a chance to look at both proposals?
Is he still there?
No, I never saw them. I talked to not Vermont Mechanical, but the second one,
Mountaineer.
Mountaineer today. He had some questions. You know, the building's always been cold. It just got really cold when the furnace died.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So he, you know, his idea of these individual heaters, you know, he said it's still not going to be warm, but it's going to be a lot warmer than it was. So that's all I know.
So do you need time to think about what you would prefer? Or,
No, I just want heat in the building. For
Without
Yeah.
the owner provided services, it's really clear what we should do,
right,
Yeah.
to me.
yeah.
But having to come up with ASAP, somebody who's gonna help remove this stuff.
Yeah.
That could be a deal breaker. How do we do that?
Well, and it sounds like some of the stuff that gets removed out of this, I forget the name too, Adam. What is it?
Mountaineer.
Yeah, right, they're doing quite a bit more work, but I guess I didn't catch it until the way Adam phrased it. We don't get a furnace, we get just the four. We get 4 ceiling gas heaters plus a heat pump for the office area. Right?
But
So, Paul, I don't know about your understanding. My understanding, having done the first walkthrough and having talked about those Modine heaters, is that they'll provide heat more directly. They'll be able to reheat the garage between times when the doors are open, they're driving trucks in and out. And in addition, the ductwork, while it was installed nicely and is of high quality, it still doesn't distribute hot air that effectively. You agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, my conversation with him today was the bottom line is your building is full of holes. I don't care what you put in here for a furnace, it's still going to be cold in here. You know,
Well, that's-
so the bottom line is all we're trying to do is keep things from freezing and make sure trucks will start in the wintertime and employees are, you know, somewhat warm when they're in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
sounds like.
so and I guess for me is if we're gonna do it, that old furnace when we had Todd Fisher come in to get it running during that 32 below zero day. Once he got it running, it's sending 800 degrees out the stack. There's more heat going out the stack than going into the building. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
That's the small one?
that's the small
on
one
the
in
left?
the old part of the garage.
Yeah, the one that you saw in the display that Wayne did, that's the old one.
Did
Yeah.
Vermont Mechanical say they had subcontractors who would help provide services? Like, we know a company that'll do that for the town or they didn't say that?
They did not say that.
But at least the office sounds like it could be really nice and toasty, depending on how you want.
Yeah, with a heat pump in there, that's the other thing that the ducts currently don't address is direct. The heating in the office is sort of a function of residual heat from the exterior.
Also like the idea of the fact that we can move.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff.
I think that's pretty cool. Not that we,
I mean, it's something that could be salvageable and save some money on the
What was the bottom line of the Mountaineer one?
54.
54.3.
And they can do that by October first?
He said, because I had asked him again the other day, I said, listen, we're at our wit's end with this. We need heat in here before winter. And he said he could do it.
I mean, they have exclusions too, but it's nothing like the other exclusions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it probably costs us, probably 10,000 if the other stuff moved.
Yeah.
As you said, and then trying to get more coordinated. I mean, you try to get them,
This is just hobbling through for 5 or 6 years. That's what this boils down to.
Right,
Or 3 or 4 years.
right.
So we don't have to worry about having the Cadillac system. We just gotta make sure that they don't freeze to death when they're getting the trucks ready.
right,
And they gotta hang in there for 5 years. And sort of what all this boils down to.
yeah, and what gives us, the best bang for the buck, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, I understand that, but the proposals are so different. The
Yeah.
$24,000 one looks so attractive, and then you have to get all these other side things done. Okay, so you bring it up to 30 or 40,000 by the time you get done.
But it's only for this, the one section.
Yeah,
correct.
but then the furnaces are rendered. I mean, I don't know if they have any aftermarket value or
That's true.
what have you, once that building is no longer functioning and
Yeah, the
taken
ability to
down or
move these,
repurposed.
the gas hung ones probably would provide us with a way, depending on how that study goes and what our new garage might look like, but you could sort of imagine coming up with a much greener way to heat it. And then you have those 4 things hanging up there for emergency or,
Yeah.
you know, they don't have a lot of solar or
we got a
whatever,
redundancy built
yeah,
in.
and then you
Yeah.
could flip those on since we already bought them. So
Yeah.
I kind of like it, I kind of like that.
Adam, didn't you and I talk about the having those as auxiliary and buildings that have radiant are built with radiant floor?
So my last employer, we had radiant heat in the floor,
And
and it was awful.
it just wasn't substantial enough, right? There was no additional.
Right, so they relied on the radiant heat, and the problem is it took, if you went out to plow your roads and you came back and you brought the 3 they would call them 3 icicles in, it took all day, sometimes 2 days to get the garage to warm back up.
Oh, geez. That's not
So
good.
that's the only issue with radiant heat is it takes a long time for it to recover. Now, that could have been too, that the boilers that they had were too small. I don't know. I'm not a heating expert. But I mean, it was
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
not,
well,
it wasn't ideal. Not
Just
for
to
the
be
main
clear-
heat. Anyway,
Yeah, to me, it just, it was always questionable anyway, to put radiant heat on the floor of the garage because it's gonna be open and closed, open and closed. And
well, just to be clear, and Wayne, I don't know if you remember, because we had that conversation with Matt at our initial meeting about the new garage, and he was surprised. I shared with him the concern that Adam had raised when we had discussed it. And that didn't make sense to him. He felt like there had to be some kind of design flaw or design error, because from his perspective, radiant floor, when installed properly, should function far better. But he also said that you would want to have, the ceiling mounted as sort of a backup or a kind of an in conjunction. They definitely don't heat as rapidly, but based on Adam's kind of anecdotal discussion about Duxbury, he said it should
Well,
have
you
been
get it on the other
much
side
better.
though, it's thermal mass. So when the whole thing heats up, even when it's turned off, you still have
Right,
heat for hours after that. But maybe it's, again, I know nothing about heating.
There'll be-
Nor did Adam say he did. So maybe it was what was being put through those pipes or whatever. But it sounds like we're getting close to deciding which one of these we're gonna do.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is when we have to make final decisions about building, I mean, there's other towns that have rebuilt garages recently, like Mill building a brand new garage and find out, from other towns what they're, how they're building.
I like copying. Yeah, I'm a big fan of stealing other people's work when I can.
Exactly, because that way, They may have even had it for a year or so before we actually have to build, we find out, you know, and it's a fairly new system. Because it was just within the last 2 years that, Milton voted 3 million for a new garage.
So, Madam Chair, you're looking for a motion to accept the bid by
Yes,
there.
yep, if that's what you prefer, that sounds good to me.
I make a motion, we accept the bid by Mountain Air to provide heat for the town highway garage
For $54,300.
for $54,300.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, to go along with that, I have a note here that,
The ARPA,
let's see, there was ARPA,
this one?
yep. It was stuck to one of my other sheets because I had seen it.
Can I
That
just-
we have-
Can I just ask you guys, so we can't print that quote out yet, but is it okay for John or myself to sign that quote and send it in?
We could make a motion that, yes, that could happen, that we authorize the, you know, the town administrator to sign the contract.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
You want to be Paula?
I think it should be, or no, either one.
Either one, Paula.
Yeah, it doesn't matter as long as one of us gets to sign it and send it in.
So I'll make a motion that
Paula.
Paula can sign the contract for Mountain Air Systems on behalf of the select board.
Because she got to move.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Thank
We
you.
have approximately 800 and, no, it's $889,500 in ARPA. And obviously, we can use nearly 10,000 for the study and the 50-some thousand for the garage, because we don't have any other funding for it right now, and they need it. That's what they need. I know I haven't.
so do you want a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion, we use ARPA funds to pay the $9,600 for the feasibility study for the highway department and the $54,300 for Mountain Air heating system in the highway department.
I second that.
And then this is very important for the thing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And this is a good use of funding to make the garage complete. Garage running and the town crew functional.
Okay, we're on our way.
No way. So this is. Oh. Well, this is the same. Second, so yeah.
Paula, can you figure out how to post this PowerPoint hanging off some page on the webpage?
Yep, I already made a note of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a lot of nice pictures, Paula.
I said to Wayne, I'm like, I got a PowerPoint, but I'm not really good at it. So here you go. And then he sent me, he's like, hey, Matt did a great job on this PowerPoint. I'm like, whoa, I did it.
That was good thinking.
Thank you. Wayne was amazing at fixing it and tidying it up.
Oh.
I work with this kind of stuff all the time. I still cannot stand PowerPoints. I will spend an hour getting things to like move over to the left a little bit.
I love that stuff.
Oh,
I'm swearing,
When I
I'm
was
with
in
you.
college, I was doing the galley sheets for the newspapers and stuff. and I loved all that stuff.
That's good. That's
Counting
good.
font points and.
Oh, that's really neat.
Eric, I clicked on one of those when I was doing the PowerPoint and all of a sudden the word went ring right across
yeah.
the whole, and I'm like, wait, where did that go?
Yeah, that's me all day long dealing with PowerPoint.
No.
Now, it turns out when we signed our amendment to, we signed the Declaration of Inclusion, even though they had a, put in sex, gender identity or expression, they, realized that we needed to add sexual orientation as well to our DEI, and we need to approve the amendment to do so.
So I see what's written here. What's written here is not the proposed. This looks like what we approved. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
You can see why it looked like we might have had enough, because it's sex, gender identity or expression, but then you think about it, wait a minute, sexual orientation is different.
Yep.
So it needs to be added to our DEI statement.
So in an effort to make sure that we don't have to revisit this again, I wanted to ask, is there one other thing that we should include in here? And I don't necessarily feel strongly about it because I do think that the declaration goes out of its way to make sure that everybody is included. But if we're, as we're calling specific things out, I wonder, should we call out, I don't know exactly how I phrase it, but political
Ideology
right?
or
Like whatever your political leaning is.
Hmm.
I don't see anything about political in there unless
And
I,
usually you don't, because it's just interesting, most DEI statements don't even talk about that, and even the RPC last night, it has a very, very different DEI statement that they're going to be preparing, but it also doesn't talk about political ideologies, because part of the reason I think they feel is that we got into this because of political ideologies.
sure.
But I don't know whether that's useful or not. I really don't. I hadn't thought about it.
Anyway, I thought it was worth discussing because I agree we should add this thing. But what I can imagine is something coming up every couple of months, or and I think Wayne sort of hinted at that.
Yeah.
I think clearly we want to be inclusive, and that's what this statement is about.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to include political stuff, but when I think about it, I know that there are probably people in town who feel, well, because I vote a certain way, people know it, and I'm marching. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, because everybody's right now feeling picked on, so to speak.
Yeah, especially nationally.
And then that's naturally, but I mean,
If Eric, do you have a word or two you want to suggest
yeah.
to insert? Because
I would say end political affiliation. Unless you have a better way to put that.
Or is it a good ideology better? I mean,
yeah, I don't have a position on it. I mean, I haven't really thought through that.
I didn't either, but I mean, that is a point.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm sure every town struggles with it. There's people who don't feel like they can voice their opinion.
Right. That's exactly right.
I'm just seeing if I can find some good example of.
So as he's finding that, how are we gonna do this? Are we taking the inclusion like it is because you adopted it back in April? Do we just do an or will, I don't know, John do an amendment to this inclusion, or should we redo the inclusion?
We're gonna do an amendment, and so because we've already signed, and if we do a motion to approve, then it just needs to be an amendment.
Okay,
That's my feeling.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think it rises to the level of reaffirming the entire thing. We think this is just the connection, a technical correction.
Right.
So
So, Nick,
let's not take any action on this for a minute, and we can do these licenses while
yes,
Eric's scrolling.
right. So we need to review and consider liquor licensures for Waterfront Gilbert Sandwich Company.
Yeah, in looking through here, I see one that from Michigan State University that happened to come up.
Oh, good.
By gosh, it's very close to everything we have, and it has the word political affiliation.
Political affiliation, I'll go with Michigan State. I can swear on it, so. Yes.
I like political affiliation. It sounds friendlier than ideology.
Yeah,
All right. Do you want to
so-
read?
You want to make a motion then, Eric?
sure. I'll make a motion to amend our current declaration of inclusion for the town of Jericho to add sexual orientation and political affiliation to the state.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for picking that up. I mean, that is interesting that, you know, the town one that had it. So that's good.
Yeah, I'd never seen one that had it. That's,
okay, now back to waterfront yogurt.
Yep. Waterfront.
now back to yoga.
2 liquor licenses. There we go. I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for Waterfront Yogurt and Sandwich Company. I'm assuming both of these are at the
Mansfield.
Mansfield Barn. Didn't say that here, but
Yeah, you can't get that info through the,
so one for the
Database.
August 12th and one for August 13th.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Yeah, there's so little information that comes through the portal.
I know, usually at least it says where.
Yeah.
Because it used to, what if they're, I mean, if they're doing this in the middle of a town green, I'm not sure I'd make a motion.
That's exactly right. So we have select board updates.
I had a question about the, Paul, are you still there?
Yep.
I was looking at these warrants. Could you tell me about Sterling Mountain Community and the $11,000? What was that purchase for?
Oh,
So
that's a good point.
Sterling
Yeah.
Mountain is David White, who's the town planner or helping with
That's
the
right.
town plan.
Yeah.
I looked at that 3 times and I couldn't figure, because Sterling is out in Morrisville and Stowe, and I'm thinking, okay, why are we paying for somebody out there? That makes sense. It was David, okay.
Yep.
And
He's clearly a skier.
Yes.
That's pretty good. Sorry to interrupt. All right, you got any updates, John?
I do. So, in no certain order, hey Paula, do you have an update on the status of the Vermont gas installation on Packard? We did not get a chance to talk about that. I know there was some challenging dynamics around granting of permits. Did they actually start the work?
Yeah, they have started the work. So Adam met with them and got everything under control. I don't see him online anymore. But yes, they are starting the work on Packard Road. They came back and are sending us periodically utility permits for people to join the Vermont Gas along Packard Road. So they're in progress right now of putting the lines in. The one thing that Adam is he's going to be meeting with them because they're taking out huge boulders where they're trying to put the pipeline, and he just wants to make sure they're going to take care of those boulders. They're pretty big.
Yeah.
So initially they're just kind of sitting off to the side.
Well, they are right now, but Adam had seen that and he's going to go and talk to them to make sure they're going to haul them away.
Somebody wanted to build a rock garden.
Big rock garden.
Or the street bag.
Yeah, so there had initially been, Adam was really clear about his expectation that none of the installation disrupt any of the existing infrastructure. And that it remained that way. And they were talking about starting before Adam had even been able to issue a permit originally and get the assurances that he needed from their permit specialist. So good to hear that everything ironed itself out in that regard.
Yep, everything worked out pretty well. So they're all set with that.
And paving on Skunk Hollow is going to begin next week on Monday. Is that the 8th?
They did the closure, the road closure, the 31st and 1st. However, they ran into some issues and had to replace 2 other culverts. So they had to close the road the 2nd. But I think I have not heard anything more. They're now on to the process of doing, going to the islands, doing the milling and stuff like that. So I did post on Front Porch Forum the dates as to what they were doing and when they were doing it. So that is out there. only had one person, call because, like I said, they ran into an issue and had to continue closing the road the second. So, but that's all taken care of.
That's a lot of culvert.
Yeah, it was. They were supposed to replace 2, and I think they replaced 4 because there was, like I said, they ran into 2 issues and came across something and had to go to the highway department and pick up 2 other culverts.
Well, the good news is that, every time, and it seems to have helped us every time that they replace and upsize, that we've been able to weather the storms and the heavier rains better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bigger culverts.
let me see, what else? So, you received your draft of the town plan,
No.
so that should have been emailed to you, Catherine. Do you
Was
want,
it emailed? I'd like paper.
okay, we can get
I went on site and did it that way.
you that, and
I wrote back to planning commission already.
and what I was gonna say, Wayne, you get big props because you've already done your edits. Not
Oh.
that they're expected, but
Well, I've talked to people. That's what I've done.
okay. So you're giving input one way or the other.
Yeah, I have not, I did not do it by paper, but I'd like to see what the whole package looks like on paper, but I have talked to Linda and I've talked to Susan.
Yeah, Linda gave me a little fork in the rear, just a really nice little one.
Great. Well, I may be up in your neighborhood tomorrow evening, and if I am, I'll drop it off for you, so you don't have to come.
That would
hey,
be
I'm
good.
not there, but I gotta sneak in. Eric's being really quiet.
I read about half of it. I did not make it through the whole thing. We did discuss it at the JCDC.
Oh.
Susan had some interesting points that she wanted to provide as part of the JCDC. I had a couple thoughts, but I only made it about halfway through.
Not Susan Breezy.
Susan.
Sue Harriet.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, Susan went to the.
Yeah, because I talked to them, as me, and because like Phil Newbeck had to do for the Jericho New Task Force, because just like Susan had to do it for JCBC, because, we're both select persons
Yeah.
for other committees.
Yeah, so our input was as individuals. We weren't
Right.
really responding as, here's what the select board thinks about it.
Right.
No,
Yeah, so I assume, how does that work? Will they present us with what is your select board response?
But they'll have their hearing, I don't know if it's called hearing, but they'll have
It-
their
it's a
meeting.
public hearing, yes.
And then come up with the final version that they will then recommend to us, and then we get to hold the hearing and react to it.
Correct.
Yeah, I think they have a timeline coming up, and Linda did speak to me about what times or what days to put on the select board to have that hearing.
And then there's part 2
'Cause we have
of the
two-
town plan, because I've only seen part 1.
Correct.
I don't think there is a part 2 just yet,
All
which
the
is all the drawings,
the appendices and,
appendices and tables and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the process, Eric, is that we have one public hearing, and any comments, we listen to what the public has to tell us, because if they didn't make it to a planning commission meeting, they also would have the opportunity to public hearing for us. And then we have another public hearing, and then we eventually to the final say yay or nay, and then the population has a chance to, appeal.
So is there, and I know we kind of have done this through our conversations that we've had with the planning commission, but is there a process where the select board says, hey, I think you need a little more here or a little more there, or is that done as part of this, do we have to wait for them to get to their final draft and then we get to it and we're like, nah, you don't have anything about,
Whatever.
yeah.
Typically, that's the way you weigh in, but you could weigh in now as a person.
Yeah, that's sort of what I did already, weigh in as a person.
Yeah, it makes sense as a person, but as a person, I'm no different from any other townsperson, right? But as a select board,
But the select
they
board.
should have an idea
Right.
whether we're going to accept it or not before
Yeah,
it's spent.
typically the select board then weighs in when it is the public hearing time.
Yeah,
That's. when
Don't
we
they
get-
have two public hearings with the select board? Is
Yeah.
it 2? Yeah.
Typically, everything is due,
I don't know if you're obliged to have to, but you're smart to have to.
right, sure, you don't
Yeah.
have, but we do.
If the comments that I'll make on it are what I've read half of it. It's very accessible, it's well written, it's easy to read. And I really appreciate that. I do have a couple comments on a couple of the minor things, but just overall. Makes me something that I do want to read and not be like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's different in that, it's different from previous ones, and then you're
Right.
like, oh, this is kind of fun reading, you know?
Yeah.
The other ones you had to, no, I gotta get this done, kind of thing. But the devil was in the zoning regs.
Right.
I mean, that's when it really push comes to shove. This is just,
But this sort of guides the zoning. Right?
Yeah, oh,
It-
yeah, absolutely.
It says, hey, here's our plan, and then as zoning
the
regulations.
zone rate should be supporting all that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when the details get clear.
But so far, so good.
Yeah, the next milestone will be on the 15th at the next planning commission meeting. David's going to be in the process of incorporating any feedback he gets in advance of that meeting. So that'll be sort of a second draft, and the planning commission will be reviewing that at that point. Riverside Sidewalk, Linda and I connected on that. She had a meeting with Cy, who's the project manager, and Israel from the state, who is looking more closely at design and state. I'm so tired. What's the word I'm looking for? Compliance pieces. It's still waiting. They're still waiting for NEPA approval, which is the environmental approval, given the current design. And once the NEPA approval is provided, it'll come back, and Linda will be working with them to schedule a public meeting. So that would be the first opportunity that affected property owners, adjacent property owners would be contacted, and the plan would be made public. We'd have
At a select board meeting or separate?
She didn't clarify. I was assuming it would be a separate meeting and not, because all the I was assuming it would be a select board. I'm sorry. I was assuming it would be an independent meeting and not a select board meeting.
For all property owners. Well, open to
And
everybody,
open to everybody,
open to anybody.
right?
But that would be. an
Community-
opportunity for-
This is the sidewalk that's already in process.
Yes,
Yes.
open for community input with specific effort made to have affected property owners in attendance. Let me see what else.
When is that gonna be?
That meeting has not been scheduled.
Okay.
So sometime, I guess at this point, it would probably be early fall, September. The other thing to report out, Chittenden County Communication Union District is working with Mission Broadband. So Mission Broadband was the organization based in Maine that'll be functioning in the project management role. And the next deliverable is going to be the mapping and gaps analysis. So they're looking at the map of broadband as it currently exists in Chittenden County, looking at underserved or not served residences, and coming up with strategic targets. And they're also in the process of determining what the scope of project management is going to cover. It's been an interesting process. The Ann Janda, who's been the Chittenden County Regional Planning Project Manager, is starting to sort of phase out as MBI kind of starts to phase in their role in reporting to the board. Concurrent to that, a number of communities have identified board members to replace what to date has been town administrator, town manager, city manager folks to kind of help get the process catalyzed and underway. Angeliki attended her first meeting with the CCUD board on, I think it was last Wednesday. So the intent will be that she and I will both continue to attend for the foreseeable future, at which point she'll step into that role as representative for the community of Jericho. So they were really looking for people who have investment in public broadband, communication, technology to function in those roles. And she's psyched. And there will be, it's a 6 hour, the meetings alone are roughly a 6 hour commitment per month. They're twice monthly. I personally have enjoyed the process of learning by being involved as a board member, but I think moving forward, it will serve the community better to have a delegate in that role. Yeah, and I think the only other thing is the VNRC is hosting a conference on the 15th. We being myself and a number of other community representatives that were in the Equitable and Inclusive Communities program. They're having they're basically convening a group of panelists for other interested municipalities who are going through the process of either organizing DEI committees or creating diversity and inclusion statements. They kind of want to hear how these committees have come into being in different communities, whether they work in direct support of the select board or in an advisory capacity, or if they're task forces. The model is different in different places. So yeah, I was flattered to be invited to be part of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, I just a little updates, the art, instead of coming down the end of August. And the new show going up because of the situation that has shifted for me. This is going to stay up to the end of September, and it'll be early October before we get a new show. And so just to remind you that I won't be here next, the second meeting this month at all.
Okay.
And then the first one in August, first one in September is definitely Zoom. And I won't know about the second one until the beginning of that week, whether I'm free to get out of the house or not, let alone drive. So I haven't really planned on too much because of this happened so fast that that's all we've been doing, is trying to figure out how many things we've had to reschedule.
Yeah.
Including company. And then we have all these appointments that were supposed to happen in September, now have to happen now in 2 weeks.
Ready to go. Thanks, Bassford.
So that's where I am. We know what you were doing.
I've been busy,
Yeah.
In the garage, obviously.
garage a little bit. I was gonna go to the farmer's market and my third grandchild showed up at their wife, so.
Congratulations.
A newbie?
Yeah, I can't believe I have three that live in the same town as me. but
Oh, isn't
I'm
that
here.
wonderful?
And then there's some other things, I have some information that may have to do with the contract if you don't do executive session,
Okay,
that would be most appropriate. I did want to ask though, we left the meeting and I couldn't tell from the minutes about the preferred alternative for the sidewalk. When will we, and I couldn't tell by the notes, when are we going to revisit?
whenever they come back to us, because he took a lot of information and there was a lot of people who said, why don't you check this, why don't you check? that?"
Okay, all right, I couldn't tell that by the minutes, but
Yeah, that there was a lot of people who said, please, why don't, think about this, think about that. And he said, oh yeah, I can do that together. So I think it's gonna be a while before they come back.
okay. And
So that sounds great. But I just want to call out, if we had gotten that report on time, we would have
we would
had
have
the
been expected,
opportunity
right.
to, there would have been an expectation that we would have approved A or B, right?
Or not necessarily, you could still say, yes, we've got this, but considering what people are saying, we're not comfortable making
a preferred alternative of those two.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. We did have a third option, but my sense was we had to pick either A or B. We could decide to pick one or the other, and then we're not gonna fund it, effectively killing it.
Right.
But you're right. We could say, no, neither of these are really what we want.
Right. And always, number one preferred alternative is no bill.
Right. So we've said that before.
Right.
Yep.
That's why it's an alternative, I assume, right?
That's right. That's always your first alternative is no bill.
Yeah, Linda's been communicating with Eric to schedule another follow-up to identify integrating feedback from the last from his presentation, but also there were some parts of the design like Dean pointed out, we had talked, but it wasn't represented that the trail would roughly follow the river corridor on his property at a certain point and no longer align with the riverbed, or I'm sorry, the railroad bed alongside the river. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of moving parts to that depending on which side you were looking at, nobody liked.
The Flynn's well, I have to say it out loud, very concerning.
The what?
The Flynn's well,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's big, really big for me.
sure.
That's different than, well, sorry, you're gonna lose some of your lawn. It's like, sorry, we're gonna affect the water quality, maybe.
No.
That was really hard for me to swallow.
Well, and he's got a point. He's, they're, taking time to, rehab a, historic home.
So I don't know what.
And we, and just because he wasn't tasked with looking at the side we looked at before, doesn't mean he shouldn't look at.
Yeah.
Well, he certainly got some feedback, so we'll see what
I
happens.
mean, to that point, I know this has happened. I mean, you could include drilling of a new well as part of the.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They did that for the tar box house. They ended up, I don't know, they did something to the bridge there and it was gonna affect the house right there on the corner
Oh,
of
right,
Target and Barber Farm. This is when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And they drove them on. I assume they being.
Yeah, that would be something that would factor in for me.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and whether, or either that, or he's able to hook up to community water.
Well, someone made that comment too. That was,
Yeah.
that's all the problem.
That itself, because I think they're close enough, but I'm not sure.
Okay, it sounds like we don't have to decide for a while.
No, we don't. So I guess if there's no other updates, we
Oh, yeah.
go to
You want to go through the minutes?
We gotta do the minutes.
in minutes. And then the executive session. I have they forgot to put Joe Flynn as an attendee. They just have Jane. And then Brian, wasn't that Brian Stevens over here?
Yes.
Yeah, see, he's not in.
Didn't say anything.
And his,
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Did?
He
Yeah,
did.
in fact, he's listed in here saying Brian said, and I went, wait a minute, Brian's not listed in the.
I think he might be, isn't he the one that said bring the water all the way down and connect them? I think he's
Yes,
the one that made that.
I think he's the one who made that comment.
Yeah.
well, and his wife isn't on here either.
Is
that right?
oh, that's right, it's Catherine,
Right, and she spoke.
she spoke.
Yeah,
She
so
is,
just to let you guys know, Donna Griffiths, she didn't have all of the names and she did let me know that she didn't have all of the names. So if you guys, have the names, let's include them in the minutes before we adopt them. But she said she wanted to know if Catherine could email her notes after the meeting so she could finish out the minutes. So
That makes sense, because I tried to send him to the town the last time, but of course it was in another email, and of course it didn't get her.
yep, I'll shoot you her email for you and then you can just forward them on or whatever.
Right,
Okay, so the name Jane has a Y in it, by the way, her name.
Which one
Jane Flynn. Jane Flynn. We're now looking at the minutes of July 20th.
okay, so it's Jayne.
Yeah.
And then,
Thanks.
Brian Stevens' wife named Kathy.
Is it K Catherine or C Catherine?
C.
Do you know?
Catherine.
She's a C Catherine
I think
too.
she's a female.
Great.
And then I think there was another person from the, Old Mill, or the Historical Society.
Yeah, there was Chico,
Yeah,
Sue Richards,
yeah,
and Ann was here.
Yes, she was. Ann Squires.
yeah. And then there was,
You think there was someone else too?
Barbara, it started with a Z. Wasn't her last name the Z?
Oh, Betty Kaczynski.
Yes.
Hold on.
B. Kaczynski. See, I can remember the initials.
You were right, I didn't write that one down.
See?
And Joe Flynn,
Yeah,
I guess that's it.
yeah, that's in terms of all the humans that we can remember. But it takes a village here.
We've got 3 of those.
That's right. That's right.
Do you have any other corrections?
Yes, 183, it's just a kind of a weird one, but there was a weird spacing between, Steve Martano,
Oh, yeah.
it's and it's got, MARTA blank, and then NO, and it's 183.
Hmm,
And then there was another one, the 436 had another one of those funny spacings. And it says Eric Johnson seconded, and 436, Eric Johnson seconded, and the M motion was passed.
Hmm.
So that was an X. Then.
In there. Yeah.
And then this was a killer meeting. We didn't, because Eric motioned and Wayne seconded to come out of executive session at 10:58. Motion passed 3-0, no action was taken. Wayne motioned and Eric seconded to adjourn at 10:59 p.m.
Okay, can you say that again?
10:58 out of executive session, 10:59 out of the meeting.
And no action taken.
No action.
Thank you.
Words.
Yeah, there was some
A lot of
stuff I was
work.
gonna say, but I didn't because
Yeah.
I felt pretty much.
I know.
I had to travel on line 61, I had this big head of steam about, yeah, it's through neighborhoods and all this, I was going on and on effusively. And then you see it reduced to 2 small sentences, I'm like.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But you got some traction out of that. I saw a bunch of emails and
Yeah,
it's good.
so funny, you think you got a big head of steam and that's
Yeah,
8 words you gotta cover.
that's right.
Wayne said.
He said that's exactly right. Oh, I tell you. It is way too not funny.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now your favorite words.
My favorite ones. I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for reasons of personnel and legal because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to parties involved.
Do we have a second?
second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Good night, everyone.
Good evening.
Favors, yeah.
Oh, do I need to include in that motion that we're asking Paula?
Yes,
We're gonna ask Paula to stay for this one?
yes,
That's right, that's gonna be in the motion.
it has to be in the motion.
As a point of clarification, since I just did that, do we have to say that when it's John, or is it just assumed that John being our,
I think it has, I think. it's on too.
so from now on,
Probably we should say,
we'll include John.
but
From now on, we should do that. I think it's only the 3 of us that
Yeah.
are one name.
If I'm not included, I'm leaving.
So please,
yeah, I don't remember us ever doing that for Todd, but I think it was just assumed because he would take us into it,
Yeah, I just know when I was principal, legally, I had to be invited to stay to an executive session.
Of the board.
of the school board.
Oh,
That makes sense, but like, I don't know.
yeah, he's the administrator.
Yeah,
okay.
But I suppose principal's not too far off. Anyway, we'll
I could see
include
having
that.
a superintendent be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in it. Thanks, Paula, for
We need everyone
everything.
to drop.
Oh, you're
Oh,
staying.
Paul is staying.
Yes, we gotta let all of the other ones.
I'll stop recording.